The morning sun of Kepler 442 billion was not yellow like Earth's sun. It burned angry red, throwing strange shadows across the broken cities below. Ambassador Zixara stood at the window of the last standing tower in our world's capital. Her blue skin had grown pale from months of poor food and little sleep. Her people were dying, and she knew it. The Devourers had come 6 months ago. No one saw them coming. They just appeared one day like a disease spreading across the stars. Their black ships blocked out the sun, while smaller craft fell from the sky like rain. The creatures inside were nothing like anything the Zephyrians had ever seen. They ate everything. Plants, animals, even the soil itself disappeared into their hungry mouths. Zixara's world had been peaceful for over 1,000 years. They had no armies, no weapons of war, no way to fight back. The Zephyrians were builders and artists, not soldiers. When the Devourers came, all they could do was run and hide. Now there was nowhere left to run. The sound of footsteps made her turn around. Elder Kethver walked slowly into the room. His old body shook with each step. Like all the others, he looked tired and scared. "The southern colonies are gone," he said in a quiet voice. "The last message came this morning. After that, only silence." Zixara closed her eyes. The southern colonies had been home to 3 million of her people. Now they were all dead or taken. She did not want to think about which was worse. "How many are left?" she asked. "Maybe 200,000 on the whole planet. Most are here in the capital, hiding in the deep shelters. 200,000. From a population of 50 million just 6 months ago. The numbers felt like stones." In her chest. "What about the other worlds? Any word from our colonies?" Kethver shook his head. "Kepler 440c fell 2 weeks ago. The mining station at Vol 359 stopped sending signals yesterday. We think the Devourers are moving through all our systems." Zixara walked to the big table in the center of the room. Maps and papers covered its surface. Red marks showed where the Devourers had struck. Blue marks showed where Zephyrian settlements used to be. There were too many red marks and not enough blue ones. "The quantum transmitter," she said suddenly. "Is it still working?" Kethver looked confused. "Yes, but why does that matter? All our colonies are gone. There is no one left to call." "Not our colonies," Zixara said. She was thinking fast now. Other species, other worlds. Someone out there might help us. The old elder stared at her. "Help us?" "Zixara, we have followed the isolation laws for 1,500 years. We do not contact other species. They do. Not contact us. That is how we have stayed safe." "Safe?" Zixara laughed, but there was no joy in the sound. "Look around you, Kethver. Are we safe now? Our isolation did not protect us from the Devourers. Maybe it is time to try something different." She moved to the communications console and began powering up the quantum transmitter. The machine hummed and sparked. It had not been used for long-range broadcasts in decades. "Even if someone hears us," Kethver said, "why would they help? What can we offer them? Our cities are burning. Our technology is old. We have no armies, no weapons, no treasure. We have nothing to lose," Zixara replied. "And maybe, somewhere out there, someone will help us simply because it is the right thing to do." The transmitter was ready. Zixara sat down and put on the communication headset. She thought about what to say. How do you ask strangers to die for you? How do you explain that your entire world is ending? She pressed the broadcast button and began to speak. "To anyone who can hear this message, my name is Zixara. I am the last ambassador of the Zephyrian people. Our world is dying. A species we call the Devourers came to our system 6 months ago. They eat everything in their path. They have destroyed most of our worlds and killed almost all of our people. Her voice shook a little, but she kept going. We have no armies to fight them. We have no weapons that can hurt them. We are not a strong people. We are builders and artists and teachers. We have lived in peace for over 1,000 years. We never learned how to make war. She paused and looked out the window. In the distance, she could see smoke rising from another part of the city. The devourers were getting closer every day. We have nothing to offer in return for help. Our cities are burning. Our technology is simple. We cannot pay you with gold or rare metals. All we have is our gratitude and the hope that somewhere in this galaxy, someone believes that innocent people should not die for no reason. Tears ran down her blue cheeks as she spoke the final words. We are the forgotten children of Kepler 442b. If you can hear this, please remember us. Please remember that we existed. Please remember that we tried to be good people in a universe that has forgotten what goodness means. She turned off the transmitter and sat in silence. Kethver put his hand on her shoulder. Do you really think anyone will answer? He asked. I do not know, she said, but at least we tried. Far away, in a solar system the Zephyrians had never heard of, Captain Jake Morrison was working the night shift at Deep Space Monitoring Station Alpha. It was boring work. Most nights, he listened to star noise and solar radiation. Sometimes he picked up old radio signals from Earth colonies. Tonight felt different, though. The quantum receiver started beeping. Jake sat up in his chair and put on his headphones. The signal was weak and far away, but he could hear a voice speaking in an alien language. The computer began translating the words into English. As he listened to Zixara's message, Jake felt something change inside his chest. This was not just another signal from space. This was someone asking for help. Someone who was scared and alone and dying. When the message ended, Jake sat quietly for a moment. Then he reached for his communications panel and opened a channel to Earth Command. This is Deep Space Station Alpha calling Earth Command. Priority 1 message. We just received a distress call from an alien species. They need our help. Admiral Lisa Carter had not slept in 18 hours. She sat at the big table in the Earth Command meeting room, watching politicians argue while an alien species died 47 light-years away. The holographic star map showed the location of Kepler 442b as a tiny red dot in the darkness. It looked so small, but Lisa knew millions of lives hung in the balance. We cannot risk human ships for aliens we have never met, said Councilman Peter Hayes. He was a thin man with gray hair, who always worried about money and resources. Our fleet has only 12 deep space ships. If we lose them, how will we protect our own colonies? Captain Ben Rodriguez stood up from his chair. He was a big man with scars on his hands from the Mars colonial wars. With respect, sir, this is not about protecting our colonies. This is about doing what is right. Right? Peter laughed. Captain, we are talking about a rescue mission that will take our ships almost a year to complete. We know nothing about these devourers, except that they destroy entire worlds. We could be flying into a trap. Lisa looked at the message transcript in front of her. She had read Zixara's words 20 times, but they still made her chest feel tight. The alien woman had sounded so hopeless, so afraid. Lisa had a daughter about the same age. She tried to imagine someone asking strangers to save her child. What do we know about their technology? Asked General Frank Turner. He was the head of military planning, a careful man who liked to have all the facts before making decisions. Lieutenant. Amy Foster stood up. She was young, maybe 25, with red hair and bright green eyes. She had been working on the alien message for 3 days straight. The Zephyrians seemed to be about 50 years behind us in space travel technology. but they are much more advanced in energy systems and biological sciences. Their quantum transmitter is better than anything we have. What about these devourers? Lisa asked. Amy's face grew dark. From what we can tell, they are hive mind species. They move from system to system, eating everything they find. Planets, moons, even asteroids. They turn everything into fuel for their ships. How many ships do they have? Ben asked. We are not sure. The Zephyrian message mentioned seeing hundreds of smaller craft, but we think they have at least 3 or 4 large. Mother ships. Peter Hayes shook his head. You see? We would be sending 12 ships against hundreds. It is suicide. Maybe, said Ben. But maybe that is exactly why we might win. They expect military logic. They expect people to make smart, safe choices. They do not expect humans to risk everything for strangers. Lisa looked around the room. 15 people would decide the fate of 2 species today. Some looked scared. Others looked angry. A few looked like they wanted to help, but did not know. How? Admiral, said Dr. Helen Kim, the head of the medical course. She was a small Korean woman with kind eyes. I have been thinking about this for days. If we do nothing, the Zephyrians will all die. Every man, woman, and child. But if we try to help, maybe some of them will live. Even if we fail, at least we tried. And if we lose our entire fleet? Peter asked. What happens to humanity then? What happens to humanity if we become the kind of people who let others die when we could? Help? Ben replied. What happens to our souls? The room grew quiet. Lisa could hear the air conditioning humming and the soft beep of computers. Outside the windows, she could see the lights of New Geneva City. Millions of people live there, safe and happy. They had no idea that alien children were dying in the darkness between the stars. I want to hear the message again, Lisa said. Amy nodded and pressed a button on her tablet. The room filled with the sound of Zixara's voice. But this time, Amy played the full audio spectrum, not just the parts the computer had translated in the background, behind the alien woman's words. They could hear something else. Crying. The high, sad sound of children crying. It did not matter that they were alien children. Crying sounded the same in every language. When the message ended, the room was completely silent. Lisa stood up slowly. I have made my decision. We are not just talking about military strategy here. We are talking about who we are as human beings. Are we the kind of people who help others in need? Or are we the kind who turn away when someone asks for help? She walked to the star map and pointed at the tiny red dot. 47 light years away, children are dying. Their parents are scared. They sent a message into the darkness, hoping someone would care enough to answer. Well, someone did answer. Captain Morrison heard their call and brought it to us. Lisa turned back to face the room. I am recommending that we launch Operation Distant Hope. We will send our entire deep space fleet to help the Zephyrians. Admiral, Peter said, I must protest. This goes against every rule of military planning. We do not have enough ships, enough supplies, or enough information about the enemy. You are right, Lisa said. By every logical measure, this mission should fail. But humans do not always follow logic. Sometimes we follow our hearts. And my heart tells me that we cannot let an entire species die while we sit here and debate. She looked at each person in the room. I am calling for a vote. All in favor of Operation Distant Hope? Ben Rodriguez raised his hand immediately. Dr. Helen Kim followed. Then Amy Foster. One by one, more hands went up. Even some of the politicians who had argued against the mission raised their hands. In the end, only 3 people voted against. A mission. Peter Hayes was one of them, but even he looked ashamed as he kept his hand down. The motion passes, Lisa said. We launch in 72 hours. Ben, you will command the fleet. Take volunteers only. No one goes on this mission, unless they choose to. As the meeting ended and people filed out of the room, Amy Foster approached Lisa. Admiral, do you really think we can save them? Lisa looked at the star map again. The red dot seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. I do not know, Lieutenant, but I know we have to try. Because that is what humans do. We help each other, even when it seems impossible. 3 days later, 12 human ships lifted off from Earth. They carried 15,000 volunteers who had given up everything to help strangers they had never met. Captain Ben Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the UES Horizon and watched Earth grow smaller behind them. Course set for Kepler 442b, reported the navigation officer. Time to arrival? 8 months, 17 days, assuming no complications. Ben nodded. 8 months to cross the void between worlds. 8 months to prepare for a battle they might not survive. 8 months to prove that humanity's greatest strength was not its weapons or technology, but its willingness to help others in need. Take us to faster than light speed, he ordered. Let us go save some lives. The journey to Kepler 442b was the longest 8 months in human history. Captain Ben Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the UES Horizon, watching the stars stream past as they traveled faster than light. Behind him, 11 other ships followed, through the darkness between worlds. Each ship carried over 1,000 volunteers who had left their families and homes to help strangers. The fleet was not just soldiers and pilots. Dr. Helen Kim had brought 200 doctors and nurses. Engineer Tony Martinez led a team of builders and repair specialists. Teacher Carol Williams had organized a group of educators who wanted to help alien children learn and grow. These were ordinary people doing something extraordinary. Captain, said Lieutenant Rick Davis, the fleet's chief planning officer, we need to talk about the battle plans. Ben nodded and followed Rick to the strategy room. The walls were covered with pictures and data about the Devourers. What they saw was not encouraging. The enemy ships are biological, Rick explained, pointing to a fuzzy image. They grow instead of being built. When they get damaged, they can heal themselves. Our missiles and lasers might not work very well against them. What about their weapons? Ben asked. That is the scary part. They do not use bullets or explosives. They use some kind of energy beam that eats other energy. When they shoot at our ships, they actually make our shields weaker by feeding on the power. Ben studied the pictures. The Devourer ships looked like giant insects with wings made of metal and flesh. They were ugly and wrong, like something from a nightmare. How many ships do they have? We think each mothership carries about 50 smaller attack craft. If there are 3 motherships at Kepler 442b, we will be fighting against 150 enemy ships with our 12. The numbers were terrible. 12 against 150. Ben had fought in wars before, but never with odds this bad. What? About the Zephyrians? He asked. Can they help us fight? Rick shook his head. They have no military ships. Their technology is built for peace, not war. We will be fighting alone. Ben walked to the window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, alien children were hiding in caves and shelters, waiting for help that might never come. He thought about his own children back on Earth. What would he want someone to do if his family was in danger? Captain, said a voice behind him. Sergeant Nancy Blake, the leader of the Marine soldiers, had entered the room. She was a tough woman with short black hair and eyes like steel. I heard you talking about the battle plans. The situation is not good, Sergeant. We are badly outnumbered. Nancy smiled, but it was not a happy smile. Good. I like bad odds. They make victory more interesting. This is not a joke, Nancy. Most of us will probably die. Maybe, she said. But maybe not. These devourers sound like they think in straight lines. They expect military logic. Attack, defend, retreat. They probably never fought anyone crazy enough to do what we are doing. What do you mean? We are not here to win a war, Captain. We are here to save people. That changes everything. When? Your goal is to rescue someone. Instead of defeating an enemy, you fight differently. You take risks that no sane military person would take. Ben thought about her words. She was right. This was not a normal military mission. They were not trying to conquer territory or destroy an enemy fleet. They were trying to save lives. Over the next few months, the humans learned everything they could about the Zephyrians and the Devourers. They studied alien language and culture. They practiced new fighting techniques. They prepared for a battle unlike any in human history. Dr. Helen Pym spent her time learning about Zephyrian biology. They are very similar to humans in many ways. She told Ben during one of their meetings. They breathe oxygen, they eat similar foods, and they feel pain and fear just like we do. The main difference is that they have never learned to fight. They have no concept of war. That explains why they could not defend themselves, Ben said. Yes, but it also means they will not know how to help us when we arrive. We will be protecting people who do not understand battle. Engineer Tony Martinez had been studying the Devourer. Ships. I think I found something interesting, he said one day. Their bioships need a constant supply of energy to stay alive. They get this energy by eating matter, planets, asteroids, even other ships. But if we could cut off their food supply, somehow ... How? Ben asked. I am not sure yet. But every living thing has weaknesses. We just need to find theirs. As they got closer to Kepler 442b, the mood on the ships grew more serious. Everyone knew they were flying toward almost certain death. But nobody asked to turn back. Nobody complained about the danger. Teacher Carol Williams organized classes where humans and Zephyrians could learn about each other through video messages. Even though they had never met, bonds were forming between the two species. The children are so brave, Carol told Ben after watching a message from young Zephyrians. They sing songs and tell stories, even though their world is burning around them. They remind me of human children during the worst times in our history. 1 month before they reached Kepler 442b, Lieutenant Amy Foster made a discovery that changed everything. Captain, I have been analyzing the electromagnetic patterns from the Devourer ships. I found something strange. Ben hurried to the communications room. What did you find? The bioships send out a specific frequency when they regenerate damage. It is like a signal that tells all their cells to start healing. But I think that same frequency might be used to disrupt their healing if we can reverse it. You mean we can stop them from healing themselves? Maybe. If we can build a weapon that broadcasts the reverse frequency, it might make their ships unable to repair damage. Tony Martinez worked for weeks to build the frequency weapons. They were not powerful enough to destroy the Devourer ships, but they might prevent the ships from healing after being damaged. It is not much, Tony said, but it might give us a chance. As the fleet approached the Kepler system, Captain Ben Rodriguez called all the ship commanders together for a final meeting. In 6 hours, we will drop out of faster-than-light travel, he said. We will probably find the Devourers attacking the planet. Our job is simple. Save as many Zephyrians as we can. We are not here to win a glorious victory. We are here to rescue people who cannot save themselves. He looked at each captain's face on the communication screen. Some of us will not survive this battle. We all know that. But we also know that we are doing something important. We are proving that humans help others, no matter the cost. The ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel together. Ahead of them, Kepler 442b burned like a dying ember in the darkness. 3 massive Devourer motherships orbited the planet. Like vultures, all smaller craft swarmed around them like angry insects. "My God," whispered the navigation officer. "Look at the planet." The surface was covered in fires. Whole continents glowed red with destruction. The oceans were turning black as the Devourers consumed everything in their path. Communications tried to contact the Zephyrians and ordered. A few seconds later, Amy Foster's voice crackled over the speakers. "Captain, I am receiving a transmission from the planet's surface. Put it through." The voice that came through the speakers was weak and full of static, but Ben recognized it from the original distress call. It was Ambassador Zixara. "Human ships. You came. We did not dare hope. Our children... Please save our children." Ben picked up the communication device. "Ambassador, this is Captain Ben Rodriguez of the human fleet. We are here to help. Tell U.S. where you are. Underground shelters... Beneath the capital city. 200,000 of us left... Maybe less. The Devourers will find us soon." Ben looked at the tactical display. The Devourer ships were already turning toward the human fleet. In minutes, the battle would begin. "Hold on, Ambassador. We are coming to get you." The battle for Kepler 442b began when the Devourer ships detected the human fleet. The 3 massive motherships moved like giant insects, their wings spreading wide as smaller attack craft poured out of their bodies like angry bees from a hive. "Captain." Ben Rodriguez watched the enemy ships approach on his tactical screen. 150 Devourer craft against 12 human ships. The odds were terrible, but he had expected that. "All ships, this is the horizon," he said into his communication device. "Remember, we are not here to destroy the enemy. We are here to save the Zephyrians. Commander Wright, take ships 4 through 7 and draw the Devourers away from the planet. Lieutenant Colonel Turner, take ships 8 through 12 and set up a defense line around the evacuation zone." "What about you, Captain?" asked Commander Susan Wright from her ship. "The Horizon and the Liberty are going down to the planet's surface. We will start the evacuation while you keep the Devourers busy." "Sir, landing on the planet while under attack is suicide," said Colonel Mike Turner. "Maybe," Ben replied. "But those people down there are counting on us. We did not come this far to fail now." The first Devourer attack came fast and hard. Their energy weapons reached out like hungry fingers, trying to drain power from the human ships. But the human pilots were ready. They had practiced for months, learning to fight an enemy that could heal itself. Pilot Sarah Johnson dove her fighter straight into a group of Devourer drones. "Come on, you ugly bugs," she shouted as her ship's guns fired. "Let us see how tough you really are." Her weapons could not destroy the bioships, but they damaged them. That was when Tony Martinez's frequency weapon proved its worth. The reverse electromagnetic pulse stopped the Devourer ships from healing their wounds. "It works," Tony shouted from the engineering deck. "They cannot repair the damage." But the human ships were taking damage too. The Devourers were stronger and had better weapons. Chief Engineer Kevin Brown watched his power readings drop as enemy beams drained energy from the ship's systems. "Captain, we are losing power fast," he reported. "If this keeps up, we will be dead in space." "Reroute power from life support," Ben ordered. "Sir, that could kill us." So could the Devourers. "Do it." Kevin made the power changes. The lights dimmed, and the air grew thin, but the weapons stayed online. The human ships kept fighting down on the planet's surface. The Horizon and Liberty managed to break through the Devourer defense line. They landed in a burning field outside the Zephyrian capital city. The air was thick with smoke, and the ground shook from explosions. Dr. Helen Kim led her medical team through the underground tunnels beneath the city. The Zephyrians had been hiding there for months, living in darkness and fear. When they saw the humans coming to help them, many began to cry. "Thank you," Ambassador Zixara said as she met Helen at the entrance to the main shelter. "We thought no one would come." "We are here now," Helen replied. "How many people do we need to evacuate?" "About 180,000. Many are children and elderly. Some are hurt or sick." Helen looked at the crowded shelters. Thousands of blue-skinned aliens filled the tunnels. They looked scared but hopeful. "We will take everyone, but we need to move fast." Above ground, the battle was getting worse. The Devourers had realized that some human ships were on the planet's surface. They began attacking the landing zone with everything they had. Sergeant Nancy Blake and her Marines set up defensive positions around the landing ships. "They are coming from the north," she shouted as Devourer ground troops approached. "Hold the line." The Devourer soldiers were worse than their ships. They looked like giant bugs with too many legs and mouths full of sharp teeth. They moved fast and seemed to feel no pain. "Sergeant, we cannot hold them much longer," called Corporal Danny Ross as he fired his rifle at the approaching monsters. "Yes, we can," Nancy replied. "We did not come this far to quit now." The evacuation was chaos. Humans and Zephyrians worked together to move people from the underground shelters to the landing ships. The alien children clung to their parents as explosions shook the ground above them. Teacher Carol Williams helped organize the evacuation lines. She could not speak the Zephyrian language, but fear and hope needed no translation. The alien parents understood that these strange humans were risking their lives to save Zephyrian children. "More ships incoming," someone shouted. Nancy looked up to see additional Devourer craft diving toward the landing zone. There were too many of them. That was when pilot Sarah Johnson made a decision that would be remembered forever. Her fighter was badly damaged and almost out of ammunition. Instead of retreating, she aimed her ship directly at the largest group of Devourer attack craft. "This is for the kids," she said into her radio. Then she rammed her fighter into the middle of the enemy formation. The explosion destroyed 6 Devourer ships and gave the evacuation team precious minutes to load more refugees. In space, the battle was reaching its climax. The human fleet was losing ships fast, but they had learned something important about their enemy. The Devourers fought with cold logic, always choosing the most efficient attack. They did not understand human unpredictability. Commander Susan Wright used this against them. When her ship's shields failed, she did something no logical military commander would do. She flew straight at the largest Devourer mothership. "All power to forward weapons," she ordered. "We are going to ram them." "Commander, that will destroy us too," her weapons officer said. "I know, but it might save the people on the planet." The Devourers tried to stop her ship, but they could not understand why someone would sacrifice themselves for others. Wright's ship struck the mothership's main hull and exploded. The damage was enormous. The mothership began to list, and smoke poured from its wounds. More importantly, the explosion created a gap in the Devourer defense line. "Now!" Ben shouted from the planet's surface. "All evacuation ships, lift off now." The 2 landing ships rose from the burning planet, loaded with Zephyrian refugees. But they were heavy and slow, easy targets for the remaining Devourer ships. That was when engineer Tony Martinez made his own contribution to the battle. He had been studying the Devourer bioships during the fight, looking for weaknesses. Finally, he found one. "Captain," he called over the radio. "The motherships use a specific frequency to control their smaller craft. If we can jam that frequency, the attack ships will lose their coordination." "Do it," Ben ordered. Tony activated a modified version of his healing disruption weapon. Instead of stopping the bioships from healing, His version disrupted their communication system. The effect was immediate. The Devourer attacked. Craft began flying in circles, confused and uncoordinated. Some even crashed into each other. "It worked," Tony shouted. "They cannot talk to each other." The human ships pressed their advantage. Without coordination, the Devourers could not fight effectively. One by one, the damaged bioships began to retreat toward the edge of the system, but the largest mothership was still functional. It turned toward the escaping evacuation ships, its weapons charging for a final attack. Captain Ben Rodriguez made the same choice that Sarah Johnson and Susan Wright had made. He turned the horizon toward the enemy mothership. "All hands, abandon ship," he ordered. "Get to the escape pods." "Captain, we are not leaving without you," said his first officer. "That is an order. Someone needs to stay and fly this ship. Now go." Ben watched his crew leave the bridge. Then he aimed the horizon at the heart of the TMD Devourer mothership and pushed the engines to maximum power. The collision destroyed both ships in a ball of fire that lit up the dark side of Kepler 442b. But the evacuation ships escaped safely, carrying nearly 200,000 Zephyrian refugees toward human space. As the surviving human ships regrouped and began the long journey home, Lieutenant Amy Foster received a message from the planet's surface. It was Ambassador Zixara, speaking from one of the few remaining shelters. "Human friends," she said, "you have saved our children. You have given our people a future. We can never repay this gift, but we will never forget it. Thank you for proving that goodness still exists in this dark universe." The battle for Kepler 442b was over. The humans had lost half their fleet and hundreds of brave volunteers. But they had also saved an entire species from extinction. The real victory, however, was not military. It was moral. Humanity had proven that they would risk everything to help others, even strangers from distant worlds. And across the galaxy, other species had been listening. The journey back to Earth was very different from the trip to Kepler 442b. The 6 surviving human ships carried almost 200,000 Zephyrian refugees. The ships had been built to carry maybe 15,000 people at most. Everyone had to sleep in shifts and share food that was already running low. But something amazing happened during those 10 months in space. The Zephyrians and humans began to understand each other in ways no one had expected. Ambassador Zixara spent her days working in the engine rooms with Ensign Chris Murphy. Her people had never learned to fight, but they were brilliant scientists and engineers. She taught Chris new ways to make energy that used half the power of human methods. "Your people saved us," she told Chris one day as they repaired a damaged power cable. "But we were so ashamed that we could not save ourselves. We felt useless." Chris stopped working and looked at her. "You are not useless. You just never had to learn how to fight. That is not a bad thing. Maybe the galaxy needs people who build instead of destroy." Zephyrian children played with human children in the ship's common areas. They spoke different languages, but laughter sounded the same for both species. Teacher Carole Williams watched them play and realized that these alien children were not really alien at all. They were just kids who wanted to feel safe and loved. Dr. Helen Kim worked closely with Zephyrian doctors to treat both human and alien patients. "Your medical knowledge is incredible," she told Dr. Vethian, an elderly Zephyrian healer. "You understand biology in ways we never imagined. And your people understand sacrifice in ways we never learned," Vethian replied. "Captain Rodriguez gave his life for our children. Many of your people did. We do not know how to repay such kindness." "You do not need to repay it," Helen said. "That is what kindness means. You give it freely." The Zephyrians began teaching humans about their advanced energy technology. In return, Humans taught them about courage and determination. Neither species realized they were creating something new, the first real friendship between two different worlds. Engineer Tony Martinez spent his time learning Zephyrian biotechnology. "This is amazing," he told his human team. "They can grow materials that are stronger than our best metals. And their energy systems are so efficient they barely waste any power at all." "Why did they never use this technology for weapons?" asked Lieutenant Kevin Brown. "Because they never needed to," Tony replied. "For 1,500 years, they lived in peace. They used their knowledge to build beautiful cities and help their people live better lives." When the fleet finally reached Earth, the entire planet was watching. News of the rescue mission had spread across human space. People waited at spaceports and gathered around video screens to see the alien refugees. The Zephyrians were amazed by their first sight of Earth. The blue oceans and white clouds looked like paradise compared to their burning homeworld. As the ships landed, thousands of humans came to welcome them. President Maria Santos of the United Earth Government met Ambassador Zix Ara at the main spaceport. "Welcome to Earth," she said through a translator device. "Your people are safe." Here, Zix Ara looked around at the crowds of humans who had come to help. Families were offering their homes to alien refugees. Children held up signs written in broken Zephyrian that said, "Welcome, friends." Doctors and teachers volunteered to help the newcomers learn about their new world. "Why?" Zix Ara asked. "Why do your people care so much about strangers?" "President," Santos thought for a moment, "because that is who we are. We help others who need help. It does not matter if they look different or come from far away. What matters is that they need us." Over the next few months, something wonderful happened. The Zephyrians did not just become refugees living on Earth. They became partners. There, advanced science combined with human determination created technologies that neither species could have invented alone. New energy systems made power cheap and clean. Medical advances helped both humans and aliens live longer, healthier lives. Ships that used Zephyrian biotechnology could travel faster and farther than anything humans had built before. But the most important change was not technological. It was moral. The rescue of the Zephyrians had shown the galaxy what humans were really like. Other alien species had been watching the mission. Some had expected the humans to fail. Others had thought the humans would demand payment for their help. Instead, they saw humans risk everything to save strangers and ask for nothing in return. The first species to make contact was the Velthari, a race of traders who controlled several star systems. Their ambassador arrived on Earth 6 months after the Zephyrian rescue. "We have watched your actions with great interest," Ambassador Korvax told the Earth Council. "Your species confuses us. You spent enormous resources to save people who could give you nothing in return. This makes no sense from a business perspective." Admiral Lisa Carter, who had been promoted after the success of Operation Distant Hope, smiled at the alien diplomat. "Maybe that is exactly why it makes sense from a human perspective." Soon, other species began reaching out to humanity. They, aquatic depth dwellers, sent messages of friendship. The crystal builders offered to share their knowledge. Even the proud warrior clans of Rigel expressed interest in meeting the humans who fought impossible battles for strangers. Within 2 years, Earth had become the center of something that had never existed before. A true alliance of different species working together, not for profit or power, but for friendship and mutual help. The alliance grew stronger when they faced their first crisis together. The Devourers, scattered but not destroyed, attacked a mining colony on the edge of human space. This time, it was not just human ships that responded. Admiral Ben Rodriguez, somehow alive after his ship's destruction at Kepler 442b, commanded a joint fleet of human, Zephyrian, Velthari, and crystal builder ships. The Devourers had expected to fight frightened colonists. Instead, they faced an alliance of species that had learned to work together. The battle was swift and decisive. The Devourers retreated to the dark spaces between stars, perhaps finally understanding that the galaxy had changed. 5 years after the rescue of Kepler 442b, Captain Jake Morrison stood in the communications center of Deep Space Station Alpha. He was older now, with gray in his hair and lines around his eyes. But he still worked the night shift, still listened to signals from across the galaxy. Tonight, he received a message that made him smile. It was a distress call from a species called the Harmony Singers, whose world was threatened by solar flares. The message was broadcast on frequencies used by dozens of different species, all calling for help. Jake opened a channel to Earth Command. "This is Deep Space Station Alpha. We are receiving a distress call. Looks like the Harmony Singers need our help." "Understood, Station Alpha," came the reply. "The joint fleet is already preparing to launch. ETA to the crisis zone is 4 days." Jake leaned back in his chair and looked out at the stars. 5 years ago, humanity had been alone in the galaxy. Now they were part of something bigger. A community of species that helped each other simply because it was the right thing to do. The galaxy was still a dangerous place. There were still wars and disasters and species that chose cruelty over kindness. But there was also hope. There was proof that different people could work together, that strangers could become friends, that the strong could protect the weak without asking for payment. Ambassador Zixara, now the first alien member of the Earth Council, often spoke about the day her desperate message reached human ears. "We called into the darkness," she would say, and humanity answered. Not because they had to, not because it would benefit them, but because they could not ignore the cry of children in need. She would pause and look out at the mixed crowds of humans and aliens who attended her speeches. That is the day the galaxy learned what it truly means to be human. It means to help others, no matter the cost. It means to choose love over fear, hope over despair, compassion over indifference. "The humans saved us," she would conclude. But in doing so, they saved something even more important. They saved the idea that goodness can triumph over evil, that mercy can defeat cruelty, that the light of kindness can push back the darkness of a cold universe. The rescue of Kepler 442b had ended one story but begun another. It was the story of a galaxy learning to be better, one act of kindness at a time. And at the center of it all were the humans, still helping others, still answering distress calls, still proving that the greatest strength is not the power to destroy, but the courage to save.